Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here. So, I got a question I thought I'd answer, and someone commented on that video, Nathan G commented. He said, hey, John, do you believe you're at your natural limit? If so, does this discourage you from hitting the gym at all? So this is an interesting question for a couple of reasons here. A lot of people talk about natural limits in bodybuilding, weightlifting, whatnot, and it's I think they don't really understand what a natural limit is. And so let me explain what that is, and then I can sort of answer whether I'm at my natural limit or not, because it's not like just a yes or no type of question. And I've definitely been at different ranges of what might be called the natural limit. So natural limit is essentially this, right? So basically, in order for you to gain muscle or to build muscle or maintain muscle, right, the physique that you have will be based off of the difference between protein synthesis and protein degradation or breakdown, right? And so as you lift in the gym and whatnot, you have to break down muscle, okay, in order to build back more muscle, all right? And so what's going to happen is that at some point you hit this diminishing returns, right? So your body's support system for building back the muscle, doing protein synthesis as fast as possible, is going to eventually hit this limit where it cannot regenerate or basically synthesize protein as fast as it's being broken down. And then when you hit that, you essentially are at what you call your natural limit, right? So think of it this way. There's a lot of things that influence that, right? So how you work out, how often you break down the muscle, how long it takes to recover, which is based somewhat on the size of the muscle, how much, what the environment is, how much protein do you have, how much nutrients do you have in order to fuel that, right? And so that's all going to sort of determine this. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's certain things that can swing it one way or another, right? So a lot of people could, hit, quote, their natural limit based on their current diet and program and everything, and then take something like steroids, and then now their ability to recover is faster, right? So the protein synthesis is faster, so they can break down the muscle more, so they can build more of that, so they can utilize more resources, right, and more nutrients. Whereas if you're natural, right, if you haven't taken anything, right, and I'm natural, you guys can check out the videos on why I don't do steroids and all this. I know that some of you are like, whatever. So, but anyway, if you're natural, then what's going to happen is that you're going to have like a very limited rate, right, based on your testosterone, right? It's going to be, there's a lot of things that influences, but essentially you're not going to be able to break down and build up muscle as fast as possible. So you're not going to be able to, synthesize that protein as fast as possible. So that maybe that gives you an idea of how we can talk about this. So some of the variables that are involved are obviously the hormones, okay? It'd be how fast you break down the muscle, like how intense your workouts are, and how efficiently, how many muscles you hit, right? How much of that, how long it takes for the muscles to recover, which is going to be based somewhat on the size, and then what is your environment, what do you have nutrient-wise available to you, calories, protein, those things that you need, amino acids, in order to basically synthesize new muscle or new protein, okay? So those are kind of the things that are going to be working for or against you. Okay, so the reason why I lay all that out is because if you guys ask me, am I at my natural limit, you have to sort of define of what, right? So can my physique get better? Absolutely. Can I put on about 20 pounds more muscle? Maybe, okay? I can put on 20 pounds more muscle, and I know that I can, and I have before, okay? I've been about, you haven't seen me on YouTube, this is way back before the pec tear and whatnot, but in my 20s, I had hit a point where I was around 290 pounds, maybe at 20-something% body fat. So I wasn't lean, I wasn't ripped, right? I didn't really have visible abs, but I was fucking strong as hell, and I had a huge amount of muscle, right? I was bench pressing 405, right? I was doing, just ridiculous, like, I think military presses of 225, right? It was insane because I had a huge amount of muscle. Now, the reason why I had that much muscle was because I had eaten so much food. I had basically had a huge calorie surplus and had grown and gained weight with that, and I had fat with that as well. So what ended up happening was, if I make that sacrifice, and if I say, okay, I don't care if I get fat, then I can gain a shit ton of muscle. The problem will be in trying to, restrict the calories and lose the fat while keeping the muscle, which is something that I was not able to do, right? And I think is, again, that's where your natural limit comes into play. So I think your natural limit is defined by a lot of different variables. There's a lot of things going on in this equation, but essentially your natural limit is going to be, as far as like gaining muscle, is going to be larger if you're going to have a higher percentage of fat. But when you get down to like a very small percentage of fat, you know, when I've been down very lean in the 8% range, my limit of how much muscle I can store on that frame is going to be less. Okay, so if that makes sense to you. All right, now some of the things I've done to hack that, to make things better, is to change the insulin sensitivity. That's why when I do my diet programs, when I do the fasting, when I'm doing 1 meal a day, when I'm doing the timing, right, the timing of the nutrient timing, so that I'm essentially taking in the carbohydrates and generating or creating protein synthesis right after that workout and reducing the breakdown time of the muscle degradation. That is sort of creating some hacks in order to allow me to have more muscle and still be at a lower body fat percentage, right? So with that said, I believe if I increase intensity, I believe if I did some things, I could potentially increase my level and still even where I'm at, right? Maybe I'm like 200 and like a lean right now, 220 or 215 pounds would put me at maybe like 7 or 8% body fat, at probably at 215, and I'm at like, well, I'm right around 230 right now, okay? I'm carrying some extra fat, but I could potentially be at maybe a 220 or 225 or 230 and still be lean, but I'd have to increase the intensity of my workouts, probably have to go through a little bit of a bulking period and gaining that muscle and then preserving that muscle. But it's pretty close, like where I'm at, definitely, as far as, you know, the kind of workouts I'm doing, which is a lot of time in the gym, the kind of nutrition that I have, right, the kind of, you know, I basically have hit some sort of an equilibrium for the most part. It's not going to get much better than that. It's going to be pretty damn close to that natural limit, as without adding anything, right? So, and the other way to think of it too is it's like if you change your routine, if you change your intensity, if you change your frequency, if you change these things, then you're going to reach a new the body's always trying to reach an equilibrium. So you could reach a new equilibrium. But yeah. As far as you guys, you know, are concerned, as far as you're asking about me reaching my natural limit, it's pretty close as far as, you know, what I'm doing. But, you know, the second part of the question was like, how do I feel about that? Why do I still go to the gym? You know, I think one is I want to maintain it, and I could probably maintain it honestly on a less. With less work, honestly, probably, but I also just like, that's the discipline for me, right? Like I feel like I need to do this. I feel like this is something that is part of my life, and doing that hard shit, you know, it feels good. It hurts, but it feels good. And so I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe that. And I still do believe that I'm making some progress. If I look at my progress, even though it's small progress over the last like 2 or 3 years, I'm learning things. I'm still tweaking things in the gym. I'm still figuring out the best way to kind of optimize things. Even though, you know, there are these limits, I'm figuring out, you know, how can I tweak the nutrition a little bit? How can I tweak the lifting and the routine in order to maximize it within this small band? So there's still a little bit to gain. There's still a little bit to grow in this area. At some point, when I think I'm happy with where I'm at, I may cut back and just go into pure maintenance mode. But for now, I'm just gonna keep pushing on. So, good question, and yeah, I think, like I said, I don't think it's not a clear-cut answer. It's not like, oh, you can only be this big. I think it depends, like I said. And like I said, if I wanted to eat a whole bunch, and if I, you know, gained weight, I could gain up to like 270, 280 pounds, and I could put, you know, a bunch of weight on my bench press, and I could gain a bunch more muscle. I know, because I've done it before. But I've also been down to like 185 pounds, right, and been skinny and lost all my muscle, right? So there's definitely ranges, and it does depend a lot on the environment, on the hormones, and all those things. And so there is, you know, natural limits, but they exist at different levels of, I'd say, body fat percentage and what your environment is. But you can't just keep on packing on muscle, right, doing the same stuff, right, without and staying, you know, around the same weight. It's not going to happen. As a beginner, can do that pretty easy, but, you know, I've been lifting for 20 years, so you know, any gains that I make now are pretty good. But like I said, though, in the last 3 years, if you look at my physique, how it fucking changed, it was crazy. Like, because I started to discover this new technique, because I started doing the 1 meal a day, doing the fasting, and doing the nutrient timing, and that made a huge difference from what I thought was sort of close to my natural limit, and made it much better. So there you have it. All right, if you have a question for me, you can always leave a comment below and I'll try to get to it. Make sure you click the subscribe button, click the bell so you don't miss any videos. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.